after the signing of Blake Snell and the deferrals, people are able to tally up the total deferrals. I'll put it this way, is what the Dodgers are doing bad for baseball? And the answer is unequivocally yes. The answer is yes, yes, and yes again. Not just with their ability to build a super team, but the way they're going about it financially with all deferred money on the back end of seemingly every big contract they have. You got Ohtani signed for $700 million, $680 million of that deferred money. Mookie Betts, $365 million contract, $115 or a third of it is deferred. Blake Snell now, $182 million, $62 million or a third deferred. Freddie Freeman, $162 million, $57 million or a third of it deferred. Will Smith, $140 million, $50 million of that or just over a third of it deferred. And everyone says, oh, well, what about all those other deferred contracts? What about all these guys that also signed deferred money? Max Scherzer got deferred. The Dodgers have $964 million of deferred payments committed since July of 2020. So yeah, there's some other guys in the MLB that have deferred contracts or deferred money worked into their contract. But for reference, $964 million deferred that they've committed to since 2020 for the Los Angeles Dodgers. And for reference, every other deferral attached to an MLB contract adds up to $271 million. Strasburg's getting $80 million on one team in the Nationals. Devers is getting $75 million on the Red Sox rather. Like all these guys, the rest of the league, when you add up all the deferred money, it only adds up to $271 million. And that's across all of Major League Baseball in terms of active contract. Yeah, there's some guys that are no longer playing that are getting deferred money. Sure. But in terms of active guys with committed deferred money, it's $271 million. The Dodgers active right now have $964 million committed to deferred payments. Active on their team right now. Are the Dodgers damaging the sport of baseball? Yes. Because if they go on to dominate and win repeatedly every year, win 110, 120, always seemingly in play for every single big free agent, it's not good for baseball. Alienating other fan bases. Yes, the small market teams need to spend more money. The owners are cheap. 100% agree. Let's put in a salary floor. Otherwise, you're forced to sell the team. Totally agree with that. But if you're expect a team in Seattle, a team in Cincinnati, a team in Tampa Bay to compete and be able to spend north of $350, $400 million a year on their team, it simply cannot happen. Not to mention the Dodgers signing every guy they can and deferring a third, half, or in Shohei's case, 98% of the contract. It's absolutely horrendous for baseball. The reason they have a competitive balance tax, baseball's version of the salary cap, is to try in some way to level the playing field, to make it so that certain teams don't spend, I don't know, $300 million more in their payroll than other teams in the exact same league. But when you defer money, it's a way to at least minimize the damage on the competitive balance tax and then make you more competitive for as many free agents as you possibly can sign. Salary cap, I'm not sure. I'd say it's probably better than the competitive balance tax in terms of keeping things competitive. That being said, the deferred money thing is a complete joke. Major League Baseball has to step in. The Dodgers have almost $1 billion committed to deferred payments on their active roster right now. And everyone says, oh, well, other guys have deferred money. Max Scherzer has deferred. This guy has deferred. Yeah, there's some guys that aren't playing anymore, that are old, that are like 40 plus years old getting deferred money. Yes, okay, I get it. Active players in the MLB right now across the entire league, outside of the Dodgers, there's only $271 million committed to active players in deferred money after these guys are done playing. The Dodgers have almost $1 billion right now active. Shohei, Mookie, Freddie, Will Smith, Blake Snell, signed Tommy Edman to an extension, and there's deferred money. Stop letting them do that. They can't, because their revenue is always going to be higher than everybody else's. They're in the biggest market, or arguably the biggest market in Major League Baseball. They got Ohtani. They basically have the support of an entire international country in Japan for their team alone. So their revenue is always going to be higher than everybody else's. So they can afford to pay these guys, especially with deferred money. So limit the deferred money and let's make things a little bit more competitive. Otherwise, you're just alienating every other fan base. I'm a Padres fan. Should the Padres be spending more because they generated a ton of revenue last year? Yes, absolutely. Can the Padres afford to pay their team close to $400 million with an additional tax slotted on top of that because of going over the competitive balance tax threshold? Can they afford to do that? No, they cannot. And that's the Padres, a team that's in a decent sized market, a team that generated a ton of revenue, and a team that's fielding already a competitive roster with a ton of guys on big contracts. What about teams in Tampa Bay, teams in Cincinnati, teams in Seattle, teams in Arizona? Like, what are they supposed to do? There's no chance. There's no way. It makes zero sense for the Dodgers to be able to go out last offseason, $1 billion to two players, come back this offseason after winning the World Series and seemingly be in on and make a competitive offer to every big free agent. Already signed Blake Snell, have an offer out for Juan Soto, in on Corbin Burns and Max Fried and Teoscar Hernandez. That's not competitive. Baseball has a competitive balance tax. Clearly, it's not keeping things competitive. Salary floor in baseball? Yeah, absolutely. Make it a minimum. I don't know, 40%, 50% of your annual revenue, something like that. Or, make it a baseline number. You have to pay your team at least $120 million a year. Otherwise, you're forced to sell because you're a cheap guy who's operating on profits only. But a salary cap, I don't know if you absolutely need it, but then make the competitive balance tax thresholds more serious. Make them more harsh. If you spend over $320 million on your team, every single dollar you spend over $320 million, you're taxed on it and have to pay it back to the league at a 300% clip. It's going to de-incentivize teams to go absolutely outrageously ballistic. Not to mention, you're only allowed to have let's say, $200 million on your team committed in deferred payment. Anything above that, you're taxed at a 250% rate. For every dollar you have deferred, over 200 million, only 200 million. Like, give me a break. The Dodgers have $964 billion committed in deferred money only. Total payment, not total contract situation, just deferred money. Absolutely disgusting. It's sickening and it's making baseball super uncompetitive and it's discouraging for every other fan base besides Dodgers. It sucks. I hate it. And when the Dodgers ultimately sign another monster free agent this year, it's going to make the incentive for baseball fans to watch not just the regular season, but especially the playoffs completely irrelevant. It's going to come down to a point where, the only way we compete with the Dodgers is if this guy, and this guy somehow or another aren't available in the postseason due to injury, due to some other unforeseen circumstance. And that's not what I want to root for. I don't want to root for guys to get hurt so my team can be competitive. That's not very fun. So what are we doing? Limit the deferred money, put a harsher competitive balance tax penalty on these teams or a salary cap while you put in a salary floor and make things a little more competitive. Because otherwise, the Dodgers are going to build an all-star team and defer every dollar they possibly can while nobody else can compete. That seems like a fun business strategy for Major League Baseball. Oh, wait, it's not. And it's going to lead to the league's demise. Awesome. As a baseball fan, love that.